gonna start the recording and get my screen share going. All right, so we are in week 3 where we are solving equations in one variable. So this is like solving is what algebra is all about, finding the missing number essentially. And okay, Jessica cannot hear. So now I'm gonna have to try to type. Okay. Oh, my dog's falling off my lap. She had a dental appointment today, so she's woozy from her anesthesia. Okay, yeah, I think it's something with Jessica's, her computer, maybe her browser. I know if somebody's on if you have an iOS device, sound is usually a problem. Unless you use Chrome. I'm typing for her. On Windows, Chrome is best. Others can hear, so I'm guessing it's your setup. Okay, so hopefully she can get that working. Looks like she's signing out and trying to get back in. So for the rest of you guys, I will continue. This is recorded, so she'll be able to hear the recording. So we're going to go through this week's material, what you have to do for the week, the discussion, the assignment, the exam, and then the suggested schedule. And I just want to say that the discussions for week 2, I really enjoyed reading what you guys researched. I learned some new things, which is really cool because normally, you know, I read the same thing because we had the same discussion each term, and it's like, okay, people keep finding the same information, but I actually learned some new things, so that was really cool. So this week we are going through chapter 2. We're doing 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. Basically everything that involves solving equations. So we've done a little bit of solving, little basics in 2.1, but 2.2 we're going to start getting the more complicated stuff with more steps. Then you're going to learn how to solve when you have fractions and decimals and learn tricks to make it easier. And then the next 3 sections are all about problem solving, word problems, the types of things that you would have to do in real life, essentially. I am doing a live session. I believe that I have it scheduled for Friday. I want to say 11, but let me double check my calendar. Nope, not Friday. Where did I set that? Sunday. Okay. I totally was misremembering on my other classes. So Sunday at 7 p.m., I'm going to go over 2.5, which is applications involving percents. That is probably the most useful type of word problem because percents are involved if you're doing tips, if you're doing sales tax, if you're getting discounts. Percents are everywhere. And so I'm going to be going over 2.5 and various different applications and word problems where you're solving percents. I do have videos in the classroom on essentially 2.2, 2.3, as well as 2.4, getting into word problems and problem solving. So there are existing videos for basically the first 3 sections, and then I'm going to be adding one for 2.5. And so that will be 7 o'clock on Sunday. So there's basically 3 big things you're looking at this week: solving word problems, and then formulas. And formulas are special because they have more than one variable. So normally when we're solving, we just have x or some other letter, but there's one variable. Formulas are different because there's more than one. And so that's something that you see in your discussion for this week. You're talking about what kind of formulas to use in your life. So you have your discussion for this week, the ungraded practice assignment, your assignment, and your exam. So exam, that's something different than a quiz, so we will be spending some extra time on that to talk about the differences. So your discussion this week. So this is another one where you do have to do some research, so make sure you're writing down your links. You're not just copy and pasting. So you are researching an equation or formula that you use in your personal or professional life. And if you can't think of anything, you can look up something you will need once you graduate. So you can look up kind of formulas or equations you use based off of your degree. There are definitely things that if you're going into criminal justice, there are equations and formulas that you would use in criminal justice. I can think of some for medical billing and coding. Business, there's formulas for that. Engineering and electrical engineering has a lot of different types of formulas. So everybody does have something that you may use that's related to your degree. There are also things that are related to your personal life. If you are struggling coming up with something, let me know and I can help you find something. Some things that you want to make sure you talk about and research for your discussion prompt is you want to basically find out what is the actual equation, like give us the formula in math. Don't just tell us, oh, it's the temperature equation. Give us what the actual equation is using, the symbols for math and everything. Tell us what it's used for, how it's used. If you can even give us some examples with numbers and say, okay, you plug in these numbers and then this is your output, this is your answer, that would be awesome because then you're demonstrating how this is used in your life. And when you do research, if you do research, you want to make sure that any place where you got information, you're including your links to the websites because we don't want to plagiarize. And as a reminder, if I can get the slide to advance, I'll just go to the plagiarism, then go back. So remember, for plagiarism is defined in our student handbook as an intentionally or carelessly presenting the work of another as one's own. And so this includes sharing information without listing the references you used, as well as including references, but having too much of the words be matching your sources and not enough being written by you. So if your whole discussion post is copied from various websites and you included the links, that's still plagiarism because you haven't synthesized information. You haven't explained it in your words. So going back to the discussion post, you want to write a post that summarizes what you learned. So you're summarizing, you're not copying word for word. You're reading it, then you're thinking about it, and then you're explaining, okay, this is what it said. This is what I learned. This is the equation that I use. This is how I use it. Here's an example. So you want to write this as if you are explaining it to a family member what you're learning in math class. And this is what you're doing. You're explaining to your classmates, basically. So try to put it in your own words. Work out an example with some math so we can see a demonstration of your equation and your formula. And then, of course, cite any sources that you use at the end of your post. So we're doing more research. It's just a different type of, instead of looking under symbols, we're now looking at equations that we use and looking into those and trying to apply them to our own life or see how they may apply. So moving on to the assignments. So your ungraded practice assignment, you've got basically 3 kind of sections to pull from to get some practice problems. I recommend these just so you have an idea of the kinds of things that might be on the quiz. It will help you study for the quiz. It lets you practice the material so that you're ready to apply it on the actual assignment. And so your assignment, all assignments, oops, that's supposed to say week 3. I forgot to change that number. Week. Okay, that was a terrible 3. Week 3. There we go. So it's all of your assignments are basically 2 graded problems. And so now that you've had 2 assignments in, you're getting used to the types of feedback and what you need to do. If you have questions or you're not sure what to do before you submit the assignment, you can email me and ask me questions. So always email me if you're not sure what to do, whether it is on a discussion or an assignment, and I'm happy to help you out. Okay, so let's talk about the exam. So in this course, there are 2 exams, and are 2 like at week 3 and week 6, and then you have your final exam in week 8, and then in between you have quizzes. So the exams are kind of like they're cumulative, taking the what you've learned so far and kind of putting it together. Oops, and that's supposed to say exam. This is what happens when I use my last introduction as a template. So your exam is 30 questions, but it's untimed, so that means you can take your time to complete it. Only 5 of the questions are short answer, which means that there are 25 multiple choice. And so try to use the function editor, just like in the discussions. There's a button when you are in the short answer, and that allows you to show your work and to type up the math. So this is a cumulative exam. It's covering pretty much everything we've talked about so far, but it's focusing on the solving aspects as well as some of the things that you need to know in order to solve. So we've got applications of percents, which is a word problem. That's something that you're learning this week. But then we also have properties of real numbers. So that's from last week. I actually did a live session on that. So that's like the associative property, the commutative property, understanding those. You have properties of equality. I do have a recording on that one as well. So those are the rules for solving. Solving linear equations, just being able to solve, that's a really major part of the class, which is why we're having an exam on it. The different types of linear equations. So whether you have a contradiction or an identity or a conditional equation, those are 3 different types of equations, and each one is depending on what your solution is, whether you have a solution, no solution, infinite solution. Translating English into mathematics. So that's something that's been sprinkled throughout the class, so that in week 1 there were some problems in that in the readings when we started with just understanding like addition, subtraction, then there was some translating there. And then there was translating once we threw in variables, and then we started translating into equations. So that has been sort of a thread woven through the first 3 weeks so far, and so that's going to be on the exam. And then applications of linear equations in general. So it's basically covering weeks 1 through 3. It's focusing most on this week because you haven't had a quiz on this stuff, so that's going to be most of what the exam is, but there is some review as well. So, but it's untimed, so just take your time. You can use your notes. I don't think there's really anything to worry about other than it is longer, so you might need to allow yourself more time because it is 30 questions. And so let's take a look at my suggested schedule for this week, how you can manage to put all this stuff in. So I'm going to zoom in. So we've got 5 sections, and so I have sort of planned it out to start reading them on Thursday, but you can adjust that as needed. But I do recommend that you do a section a day, and you can do your discussion prompt pretty much anytime, but I do like to spread it out so you can take your time to research. I do recommend that you write your discussion prompt the day after you do research because that helps eliminate the possibility of plagiarism because you won't have the exact words in your head. You'll be writing it based off of what you learned or what you remembered because of that gap. So that's what I recommend you do. And then you can check for grammar and all that to make sure that it's readable before you post it. There is a video in the classroom on how to study for a math exam. So I recommend watching that just to help you get prepared for a longer test. And then I've picked out some different practice problems for each section. The assignment, you can complete that once you've gone through 2.3 because the other 3 sections are all word problems and the assignment does not have any word problems. So you can do the assignment as soon as you've finished 2.2 and 2.3. And then that leaves you the rest to kind of see how these are applied, how these go in your real life, and to study for the exam. And then, you can start the exam at any time. You can do a little bit at a time, or you can do it all in one day if you want to do that on Tuesday. So that's basically what you have to do for this week. I think as regards to I don't know if this week is really easier than last week. I guess it's about the same. You have more sections you're reading, but they're going to be very repetitive, and it's just applying concepts. So if you do have questions, you can email me or give me a call. And let's see, I've got a question. There's not a quiz, there is only the exam. So the exam is like a quiz plus extra questions, essentially. So that's what makes it longer. And a lot of people, that kind of throws people off because people are surprised, like, oh, this is longer than I thought. But consider it a quiz plus, if you want to think of it that way. There are other questions? I see a couple people typing. This week's exam proctored? No, it's not proctored. So you don't need to worry about having a webcam or a microphone. It's not proctored. It's not timed. You can start it and do it in pieces. So if you go on to college algebra, though, that's when timed exams start. But you don't have to worry about those in this class right now. There are other questions? Okay, I don't see anything. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys. If you have questions with the solving stuff this week, or like the homework problems, just let me know. Reach out to me. I can do one-on-ones. I've done one-on-ones with people before, doing like a video like I'm doing here, or like my live sessions where I do the teaching. So I'm happy to do that with you. Even work through if you're not understanding and you want to do a live session just over the feedback on your homework, or to kind of work it out. I'm happy to do that too. Just let me know. So. All right, so I guess I will let you guys go so you can enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'm probably going to grab some dinner before my next live session. So you guys have a great night, okay? Bye.